Hello and welcome to the Business Channel. Today we're looking at British manufacturing. Is it still ailing or very much alive and kicking? Manufacturing has shrunk from 22% to 11% of GDP in Britain in the last 10 years. That's because it's been cheaper to make things in China and in Eastern Europe. But now the sector is starting to come up again, partly because of a weak pound, but also because niche manufacturers are finding low-carbon solutions and producing good quality.
Manufacturing is on the up because of a combination of both the competitive pound and I think the ability of manufacturing leaders to take advantage of the recovery. The competitive pound has undoubtedly helped since the latter part of 2008. But British manufacturing leaders have demonstrated the resilience. They've kept labour force and skills during that recession, and through the process of innovation they've demonstrated that they can take advantage of these recovering and emerging export markets.
I think manufacturing in the UK is showing a revival, but only in certain sectors of the businesses. I think that it's a big challenge for business these days to see that manufacturing has to change. And what I mean by that is working practices, investment in technology and processes, and all that brought together means that we also need to seek out new markets and perhaps more cost-effective ways of taking our goods to market. All that put together means that as long as you are investing, then you're better able to meet the challenge.
I think there is still money to be made. I think you need to look at what sort of manufacturing you're undertaking and increase the added value component, increase the technological component, increase the knowledge component, because that's the way that in a developed economy like the UK, which is relatively high cost, manufacturers can still succeed and can still prosper.
For a long time, UK manufacturing has been seen as kind of the poor cousin for services industries and so on, but suddenly we're being cited as helping drive the UK out of the recession and all those kind of things, which is great. We don't have some of the benefits of other geographies around the world in terms of low cost base and so on. So what we need to do is to do things better than them, whether it be faster, higher quality, better use of technology.
If the cost of producing parts is predominant labour cost, then we are never going to compete, I would suggest, with low-cost economies. But if on the other hand, a lot of the cost is associated with the methodologies and the development of those methodologies producing those parts, perhaps the high-integrity parts, the more demanding parts, then I think the use of technologies such as simulation to make sure we optimise those processes is a vital ingredient and something that I think SMEs should be encouraged to do more and more.
Automation can neutralise much of the labour cost benefits that the Chinese and the Indians have. If we're both innovative over our product design and also about the way we manufacture products in advanced automated plants, then we can compete on the global stage.
I think the future of manufacturing, UK manufacturing, lies in both the development and maintenance of both the technical skills and investment in technology. It's very important that we've got the same technology as the rest of the world. Of course, technology is available to most parts of the world, so that in itself doesn't really set us apart necessarily. But I think that, coupled with good technical skills to drive that technology, to interpret that technology in a very effective way, is vital.
Well, I think over the last 5 years we've seen the food industry embracing robotics in particular, and I think that will continue over the next period, and it will be driven down more and more into the SME companies. Sectors such as aerospace, which you perceive to be very high-tech, have not made big use of automation, but I think that's set to change over the next period. And we'll see more in general manufacturing and in logistics. And beyond that, and beyond industry, I think we'll see more and more service robots start to take a hold in the UK. And I'd like the UK engineers to be a leading light in that.
We're very fortunate as a business actually. We have continued to grow throughout the recession, not at the rate we'd planned to, so it's not all been good news, but we have continued to grow. And I think that's possibly because we're aiming at the very high end, the high-tech end of engineering. And I think that that's something that as an economy, as a manufacturing economy, we'll be well advised to do. More and more companies should be looking to addressing that high end. And if they do, and I think they are in most cases, then I think we're in a very good position to compete with the rest of the world.
I have seen a revival in the manufacturing, especially within the UK. If you drive down the M1, you'll see all the new industrial plant that's been developed. 9 times out of 10, that's developed with a green supply. So that will obviously reduce emissions, reduce downtime, be a more business-focused approach into contracts.
I think being green and sustainable for manufacturers is critical. A number of key areas would be, for example, wastage. By reducing wastage, you reduce cost, and obviously that helps the bottom line. In addition, depending on the type of manufacturer you are, for example, we're a printer, using biodegradable inks, recycling paper, these are all things that contribute to the environment. And of course, when it comes to our supply chain, our customers demand that we can show that we're environmentally friendly.
Very important to being green within the manufacturing sector. One is because obviously running your building development at optimum cost, and at the same time is what you must remember is once you've started it, it's a continuous improvement. It will never end, you know. So it's all about achieving to the next level, and that includes basically your skill, your labour, as well as products and equipment that you fit within your plant. There's lots of initiatives within the government now to enable this, such as feed-in tariffs, renewable, micro-generation renewables, which absolutely suits the manufacturing sector.
In manufacturing, in order to show a revival, you have to ensure that you are economically but also environmentally friendly. What that means is that by investing and becoming green, we're going to last longer. It means that we can keep manufacturing on the up in the UK.
Many industry leaders say one of the major issues facing manufacturing is a skills shortage. Perhaps people are wary of entering this sector because the perception is it's not thriving.
I think it's very important that we don't lose sight of the fact that we need people at all levels within the engineering industry. We need to be developing apprentices. Apprenticeships have a little bit gone out of fashion, I think, in recent times. I think that's a shame. We also need to develop professional engineers, of course. We're often looking for graduates to work in our organisation. That in itself creates some challenges, particularly getting graduates who are security cleared to work on UK-only type applications. There are some challenges there, but also an opportunity. And I do believe, given the right, if we all make the right moves over the next few years, I think the UK is very, very well positioned to not only survive, but be a leader yet again in the manufacturing industries.
What we're seeing at the moment with regards to skills shortage is I don't actually see enough engineering personnel coming through, and this is due to lack of apprenticeships. The UK manufacturing industry was built on apprenticeships. Some of these individuals went on to become into the building services side of things. What we're actually finding too, companies not embracing the likes of the individuals coming out of the forces who've got engineering skills. They want all singing, all dancing individuals to come in to actually deliver their services. I believe what needs to happen within the industry is that we need to invest time into these individuals and give them the opportunity, as we are going to find ourselves in a lot of problems in the UK.
For the last 15 or 20 years, we've been talking ourselves out of manufacturing. It's only in the last couple of years where we've woken up to the fact that we need manufacturing for a strong future. And in fact, that's driven a much lesser uptake of science and technology apprentices, technicians, graduates, which is self-fulfilling.
But not everyone agrees. The opposite view is that the skills are there, but that staff have slowly leaked to other sectors as manufacturing has declined.
I don't agree there is a skills shortage in manufacturing or in fact in the UK. The reason I say that is through the recession, many people who had the required skills in manufacturing have moved on to other roles, into other businesses, but they never lost that core skill. By working harder to find these people and bring them back into the sector, provided they're given the proper training and the proper development, what we can ensure is a very skilled workforce that have the core skills and are up to speed.
In terms of the manufacturing sector, if they are seeing or perceiving that there's a skills shortage, we certainly are not producing any less graduates with the skills that they would be demanding. What we possibly are seeing now is a greater number of graduates going into the banking sector and accounting, and therefore that may be reducing the number of graduates perhaps who have the skills that the industrialists might require.
I probably think there's a skills mismatch, maybe, because I believe that with the new government apprenticeship schemes, with the different types of degrees you can get through various universities in the UK, that the skills are there. Whether the manufacturing industry is attractive to those people is a different question, because, you know, when students see £2 million bonuses banded around in the financial sector, when they see the working environments that are created in the big cities, air-conditioned offices, you know, leisure centres inside offices and all that sort of thing, then I guess the choice between doing that and manufacturing is very difficult for them. But engineering-based students should really take a hard look at manufacturing.
To be honest, most engineering graduates don't actually go into manufacturing. A lot of them go into banking, investment bankers. They become, because it's assumed that it's a lot more, it pays you a lot better, and you go up the ladder quite quickly.
They know that engineering pays okay, but in a sense they want to get more than what engineering offers, and that's because they believe that although engineering is a good salary, banking can offer a little bit more, and they have the necessity, you know, the standard skills they need to go into banking, because bankers look for all the maths that we do in our degree.
I think there's perhaps a greater number of graduates, and therefore that's put a greater strain on the manufacturing sector offering the opportunities for working in industry. And from that point of view, one can see that not all graduates will be properly equipped as they might have been with a smaller graduate population.
One of the initiatives what FRL Recruitment have actually come up with to enable the industry sector to thrive again is to actually offer individuals to them on work placements where they don't actually pay for the individual and that they try before they buy. Now, that's one of the initiatives we've tried, and it seems to actually be working. We have a responsibility to our candidates as well as our clients to ensure that both parties are looked after and that we actually get people into paid employment.
Tailored recruitment is highly important, especially at senior level, because no one company operates the same as another, so we need to gain an understanding of exactly what each client needs to fulfil the role. So then we can go and search for the right candidates for them. But we tailor pretty much every single role that comes in. We gain an understanding of clients' requirements, whether it be a receptionist or facilities assistant or to director level, and that's how we operate.
Really important that we have very experienced staff. When our customers are paying for consultants to be on site, they don't only expect them to know the product inside out, but they also want them to know what other people are doing in the industry and how they're doing it. So they're looking for experience of people having done it before. Especially in UK manufacturing, that tends to be signs of grey hair very often, you know. Also, if somebody phones the support desk, they want to talk to somebody that can solve their problem. They don't want to speak to somebody that just says, I'll write it down and I'll get back to you. So again, in those sort of terms, retaining staff with vast amounts of knowledge is absolutely critical. The flip side of that, we're obviously in a technology business, and it's important we're at the leading edge of technology. So it's really critical that we keep up to date with technology, that we keep up to date with training of our technical consultants and so on.
We need to make sure our staff are up to date. They're very enthusiastic to be up to date, but to do that as a business, we need to encourage them to continue their professional development, to go on graduate training schemes, to be members of the engineering institutions. A lot of self-learning. There's a certain amount of self-learning goes on. They need to read round, they need to be aware of the technologies as they're developed. As resellers for a number of leading packages, we are fortunate to get vision of this very early, and that's important that they learn that. And then, of course, we encourage them to take part in institutions, seminars, and make presentations at institutions, and really everything that's involved in the technology, we should be involved with.
Staff retention, staff development is vital. Retention as skills and your sort of human capital becomes vital to your continued success and growth. And also because you need those folks to continue to adapt your models to respond to the models of your buyers and your customers.
We are producing graduates of the same level of academic ability as they had 20, 30 years ago. So from that point of view, the skill sets that they have are just as good as they used to be. perhaps they're not as specific as the manufacturing industry want.
We've got to have the talent coming through, and we need people knocking at our door looking for jobs. We want people who are committed to it and believe in it passionately.
I did manage to get a 4 years industrial placement, and it wasn't at all easy. It was extremely difficult, and I think that's mainly because industrial placements aren't advertised. Students have to go after these industrial placements and try and acquire these placements for long-term opportunities. It was difficult for me to get the industrial placement because of my studies, with coursework and with exams coming up, but the attention that I put into that is definitely worth it in the long run.
Manufacturing is strong because it's had to be. We want to move away from this square mile mentality and start understanding that, you know, in the old type of economics, you know, to make any money you had to add value, you had to do something, you had to go and buy your raw materials and turn it into pots and pans and sell it to somebody and make a bit more money. Well, that's where we are at the moment. The government needs to have a firm plan for manufacturing.
I think that government has a very important role in encouraging manufacturing by being a good and effective partner. That doesn't mean trying to run the businesses, it means creating the right long-term environment. So a simpler tax system that reduces the corporation tax rate, so money can be reinvested back into industry and into capital, making sure that in skills terms we're actually improving and increasing the number of apprenticeships so that industry gets the skilled workforce it needs. It means investing in infrastructure so that actually the UK is an efficient place in which to do business. That's why we're retaining the spending levels for infrastructure that we've inherited from the last government, and it's why we're investing in high-speed rail to make sure that we get that improvement in public transport. So I think the crucial point from government role is to be an effective partner, always wanting to look at how we can improve the conditions of manufacturing here in the UK, because I'm always mindful that we are competing with countries abroad. So we've always got to make sure the UK is a good place in which to do business.
The role of engineers is, I believe, absolutely critical. I think it's probably not much of an exaggeration to say that almost every solution that we face is being addressed and can be found by engineers. Whether it's, I think as you're aware, climate change, whether it's the ageing population, engineers are at the back of that. Mobility products for our ageing population, much of the waste reduction, carbon reduction that we're required to meet in terms of our environmental regulation and legislation. All of that has been driven by engineers through research and development, and of course from that applied product development. And I'm pleased to say that we are very much to the fore here in the UK.
One of the issues with manufacturing is that it's capital intensive and returns are spread over a long period. So equipment needs to be bought and paid for up front for the goods to actually be made. The finance sector needs to reflect this when providing funding to the manufacturing sector.
I think we help broadly by providing finance. I mean, as a specialist financier, we're there as an alternative to perhaps more mainstream bank finance in the sort of products we provide. Specifically for manufacturers, there is this need to continue to invest, to hold stocks of raw materials, to hold stocks of inventory, and also to fund their working capital cycle. If we look at the market at the moment, if we look at some of the competitive environment, you know, we stand there as a specialist, we stand there as a consistent specialist, able to help right now in sort of this changing market environment that many of our customers are seeing, and adapt our models perhaps more easily than a larger, more retail-focused bank is able to do.
I mean, I know talking to businesses that they do find that accessing finance is a problem. We should remember that 2/3 of the smallest businesses get the money they seek in terms of loans or in terms of overdrafts, and in fact nearly 85% of medium-sized firms also get the money that they're actually seeking. So it is a problem, but it's not quite one that affects every business. But what are we doing about it? Well, first of all, we've asked the banks, and they've now brought forward a lending code and an appeals process, so that if a business has a problem, they've got a means by challenging the bank if they think they've been dealt with unfairly. Secondly, we've also made sure that we are helping in terms of the enterprise finance guarantee, so government is underwriting loans made by the banks, and we think this will unlock about 2 billion in loans over the next 4 years. Then on the equity side, just as important if you're growing your business, we're investing 200 million in what we call the enterprise capital funds, and these are targeted at the high-growing, capital-intensive businesses, sometimes in industry, other times, for example, particularly in the low-carbon field. So it's that rounded approach, I think, as well as new initiatives on things like supply chain finance, that we think will actually free up the market and give businesses much more choice.
If we look at our working capital products perhaps, they tend to be asset-based, they tend to respond to growth quite effectively, so as businesses build stocks of inventory perhaps, so their facility increases in line with that inventory growth. As their sales increase, as they explore new markets, so again linking their finance to their sales volumes allows their finance to grow automatically. As business has kind of changed its shape and its operating model over the past few years, we've seen a shift in the requirement of these businesses of their finances. So, for example, businesses are much more willing now to rent rather than buy. A manufacturer will look to perhaps lease its equipment rather than to buy it outright, giving them more flexibility and cash flow. Similarly, as they're selling, perhaps their buyers are looking to lease rather than buy the assets outright. We do some very small leases. We'll fund an individual piece of office equipment or even some laptops and computers, right the way through to full production lines for manufacturing businesses. And obviously, dependent on the size of the lease in question, the more discipline and substance you would look for in the business itself. So perhaps for very small businesses using fairly small leases, we would look for some fairly simple financial controls and some fairly simple substance. As you get larger and larger, of course, you would require more detail, more financial discipline, more financial information, and track that more carefully. The markets have changed, the world has moved on. I think manufacturers need to look more broadly at their requirements and investigate them. Go and talk to providers of such forms of alternative specialist finance, talk to them, understand them, and understand how they could work for your business.
It's thought that the growth in manufacturing will be led by small businesses, and so they want the government to do their bit to support them by reducing the red tape involved in setting up and growing manufacturing firms.
I see government as being the facilitators, creating the right environment for manufacturers to operate. If they create red tape and rules for the sake of rules, then that's prohibitive. It increases costs and it puts barriers in the way for businesses to do work. I believe that by just creating the right environment and encouraging businesses, it will be a win-win. More money in the economy, more jobs, better wealth, and therefore the government wins and so do the businesses.
The UK government play a vital role in reviving UK manufacturing. They are the only people that can offer tax revenue initiatives and also grant schemes for building owner-operators and management of portfolios to carry out investment schemes and projects to install renewable technologies within their buildings, low carbon efficient equipment, and those actually can be purchased from the UK manufacturing base, therefore has an impact on reviving UK manufacturing.
Well, I know that the current government is very keen to encourage manufacturing, and that's, as far as I'm concerned, a breath of fresh air. I think one thing that is difficult, and the particular part of manufacturing that I'm interested in really, is the research and development, the R&D type activities. We help a lot of companies who are working on those projects and indeed get involved in some of those projects ourselves. There are some funding schemes around to help companies to do that. The one thing I would say is that I think within the SMEs, the smaller organisations, there's not that much knowledge about how best to get those funds, how best to make use of those funds. So I think if the government could do something, it might be to educate the people and make it easier for them to access that sort of funding and help.
Well, I'd like to see some policy decisions at the highest level which support a long-term base in manufacturing to give everyone the confidence that manufacturing is here to stay in the UK. I'd like to see more support to entice and motivate teenagers through into science and technology and into manufacturing. It would also be good to see a strong tax environment in the UK which supports investment in manufacturing on the long term.
I think at the moment there are some specific changes proposed to lease accounting, which frankly I don't think will be very helpful for either customers or lenders. So perhaps to sort of continue to consider how those are going to play out into the market. And I think for manufacturers especially, looking at the tax relief available for investment needs some further thought. I mean, it's improving, but I still see that manufacturers are somewhat hesitant to invest right at this point in the cycle, and perhaps some more stimulus is required.
For a lot of our customers, they have to make big investments in their businesses, and it's about the certainty to do that. So I think there are a number of significant major infrastructure projects that the government's working on, things like high-speed rail links, things like nuclear power. And I think we just need some certainty in all of those types of things so that businesses can choose whether they be just UK manufacturers choosing to invest or whether they be global manufacturers choosing to invest in the UK. So I think that certainty would allow people to make those investments with confidence. I think the other thing that a lot of our customers would like to see is a government procurement process that was, if not favourable towards UK customers, certainly neutral towards UK companies. I think the other piece that we'd like to see, and most of our customers would like to see, is incentives to invest in equipment, in training, in technology. So again, I think one of the things that UK government could do is look at incentivising people to make investments in those, so that maybe it's through tax breaks or tax breaks for those investments, so we could take some of those world-class manufacturers we've got and make them as efficient as some of the other places in Europe and around the world. I think the UK ranks about 7th in terms of factory automation in Europe, so I think it's absolutely critical that we get our UK manufacturers investing in equipment to bring them up to the same levels of efficiency that other people are. And the best way the government could do to encourage that is possibly tax incentives for training and for equipment and for technology.
Over the last couple of decades, manufacturing has not had a particularly attractive or good image, and I think it would be wrong of us not to recognise that. But I believe that is changing, and I believe it's changing quite strongly as a result, in part from that recession. Manufacturing is a great wealth generator. About 53% of our exports come from manufacturing, about 70% of our research and development in business comes from manufacturing, and of course it's a double positive whammy when we export what we've got here. And I think there is a clear link, whether or not we wish to face up to it or not. There is a clear link that where research and development is undertaken, in the main, that tends to be where the manufacturing or production takes place.
It is a global market that we work in. Aircraft, medical, automotive, they are all built everywhere around the world. And we compete closely with markets as far away as Brazil and China. So for us to maintain any sort of competitive edge, we have to be able to be innovative, and we have to find the best ways in which we can manufacture those components.
So after all that we've heard today, we can see that the resurgence in British manufacturing is down to not only the fact that there is a weaker pound, but mainly to the fact that the sector has embraced the value of technology. British manufacturers are in an excellent position now to reverse the fortunes of a sector that many had left for dead. Well, that's all we've got time for now, but if you'd like to find out more about any of the organisations that we've featured in this programme, then check out our website, which is thebusinesschannel.tv, or download via iTunes by searching for The Business Channel TV. Bye-bye for now.